On June 12, 2025, what began as a routine flight from Ahmedabad to London turned into one of India's worst aviation disasters in recent memory. Air India Flight AI171, a Boeing 787-8, registration VT-ANB, crashed moments after takeoff, killing 260 people, including all on board and 19 on the ground. Today, we take you inside the preliminary investigation of this horrifying event, piecing together the timeline, the technical breakdown, and the questions investigators are still racing to answer. Flight AI171 was scheduled to depart from Ahmedabad Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, bound for London Gatwick. The aircraft was a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, just 12 years old, with a clean safety record and recent maintenance. On board were 230 passengers, 10 cabin crew, and 2 flight crew, all set for a nearly 9-hour journey to the UK. The captain was a 56-year-old veteran with over 15,000 hours of flying experience, over half of those on the Dreamliner. His co-pilot, 32, was experienced too, with over 1,000 hours on type. But just 2 minutes after takeoff, disaster struck. At 13:39 IST, Flight AI171 was cleared for takeoff from runway 23. The aircraft smoothly accelerated. At 155 knots, it lifted off the ground. But then, in a span of just 9 seconds, both engines lost power. Flight data shows both engine fuel control switches suddenly moved from run to cut off, one after the other, with just 1 second between them. Cockpit audio captures the confusion. "Why did you cut off?" "I didn't." The engines began to spool down. The plane, still low and slow, could not maintain altitude. Seconds later, the Dreamliner clipped treetops, hit a chimney, and smashed into the BJ Medical College hostel, just 0.9 nautical miles from the runway's end. It tore through multiple buildings, including dormitories, a water tank, and several residential blocks. Fire erupted. Debris scattered over 1,000 feet. CCTV captured the ram air turbine, RAT, deploying, a last resort system triggered when both engines fail. Among the twisted metal, investigators found haunting clues. Throttle levers burned, but data showed they stayed in takeoff position. Fuel switches physically in run, but data showed they were briefly in cutoff. Engines attempted an in-flight restart, but time ran out. Both pilots were well rested and medically fit. They passed breathalyzer tests just an hour before boarding. Weather? Clear skies, calm wind, no issues. Runway? Long enough, dry, and fully operational. The aircraft? Recently inspected, with no major mechanical issues. Maintenance records did note open MELs, including minor issues with the cockpit printer and cabin surveillance. But nothing related to engines or flight controls. Fuel was clean. Weight and balance were well within limits. The last maintenance check was just weeks prior. So why did both engines shut down? Investigators turned their focus to one detail: the fuel control switches. The FAA had issued an advisory in 2018, warning that certain switches, like those used in the 787, could accidentally disengage. But the advisory was non-mandatory. Air India didn't perform the suggested inspections. And though the switches had been replaced in 2019 and 2023, there were no reported malfunctions. Could these switches have been bumped accidentally? Could it be a design flaw? Or, was it something else entirely? At 8:09 Universal Time Coordinated, the captain called. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday." But there was no time. The aircraft crashed just seconds later. ATC saw the impact and immediately activated emergency response. Within 5 minutes, fire crews reached the scene. Local authorities joined in. But the destruction was immense. Among the dead were 229 passengers, all 12 crew, and 19 people on the ground. One passenger miraculously survived with serious injuries. 2 enhanced airborne flight recorders were on board. Both were damaged, one badly. To recover the data, AAIB India had to borrow golden chassis units and special download cables from the NTSB in the US. Eventually, they pulled 49 hours of flight data, including the entire accident flight, plus 2 hours of cockpit voice audio. The recordings confirmed normal takeoff, unexpected dual-engine shutdown, brief attempts to restart, final impact and abrupt end of all recordings. The wreckage was strewn across 6 buildings. Investigators used drones to map debris fields. Components were quarantined. Engine cores were sent for lab testing. Fuel samples were checked, clean. Autopsies, interviews, maintenance logs, and psychological evaluations were launched, every clue, every variable under scrutiny. Multiple international agencies joined in, the US NTSB, FAA, Boeing, GE, and aviation boards from the UK, Portugal, and Canada, all countries that lost citizens in the crash. As of now, the investigation continues. No definitive cause has been announced. No safety bulletins or airworthiness directives have been issued, yet. But experts warn. Dual-engine shutdown on takeoff is extremely rare. Whether it was mechanical, electrical, or human error, the world needs answers. For the families who lost loved ones, and for every future passenger aboard a 787, those answers cannot come soon enough. This is just the beginning. When the final report is released, we'll cover it in detail. Until then, subscribe for updates on aviation safety, real crash investigations, and the untold stories behind the headlines. In memory of those lost on Flight AI171.